Hello.
Hello.
Mr.
Sounds-
Schuyler.
Sounds like, Jeff, it sounds like we have a third voice on our pod.
Yes.
We sure
And this
do.
voice, just by accent alone, sounds like they know more about football.
Then both of us combined.
Yeah, easily.
We'll see.
We'd like to welcome to Meet the Soccers, Neil. Maybe the most mentioned person on Meet the Soccers outside of Arsene Wenger. So, Neil, welcome to our podcast. Say hello.
Hello. I think my first mention was Jeff saying that all Scottish guys were tight with their money. I do remember that. So keep that one up here, Jeff. I've got a couple for you.
Oh, man. I don't remember saying that about
Oh, I do.
I remember.
any opinion about all Scottish people. Man, I should really paint with this short.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
All right, well.
Jeff, you want to apologize? Yeah.
Oh, I don't do apologies.
Oh, man.
Well, then let's just
don't characterize entire countries of people in one sentence, though, do you? So, smart play.
Well, Neil, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're clearly from scenic New Jersey. I'm sensing from your accent. Tell us where.
I've been over here in LA since 1992, but before that I was up in Aberdeen, and that's how, that's where my United connection came from. So I was an Aberdeen fan all the way through the 80s, when Aberdeen were good. Aberdeen had a great team through the 80s with Ferguson and won the league, won the European Cup Winners' Cup, beat Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. And then Ferguson went down to United in 86. So I despised him, and at the time I despised United, and then I gave it a couple of years, and then. But there's a huge connection with Aberdeen and United. Dennis Law going all the way back came from Aberdeen. Martin Buchan played for both Aberdeen and United. So there's been a lot of folks from Aberdeen going down to United, and then a lot of Scottish guys at United. So I was late to the game to United. So I would say I'm a United fan from 87 onwards.
So you've also lived in LA longer than I've been a United fan, and that's very humbling.
Well, I've lived in LA now longer than I live back home.
Wow.
Would you say at this point, would you consider yourself more of an Angelino or more of a Scot?
No, I keep saying back home, so I know where my home is. I came out here for 6 months in '92.
And you were into it.
I come here on the 27th of April, '92, and the LA riots started on the 29th of April. That was my first week. And then I was
got a new TV and a new couch, and you're like,
going cheap. Yeah. And I didn't know. I remember watching TV at the time and thinking, how can people riot when you've got palm trees in the street and sunshine? But I guess my idea of LA has changed over the years.
We find a way to be miserable. We really do.
Yeah. You should be Scottish.
Well, I wanted to bring up something. You already brought the Scottish connection to United, and I would say if you look back before the Premier League era, like it wasn't even just a Scottish connection. Like there was Scottish players, Irish players, Welsh players. It was like the United Kingdom. I feel like United had a lot more of a representation from the countries surrounding Britain. Like what is your opinion on the, like, I guess the globalization of football, but then the globalization of United? Now it looks like a United Nations, like most of the top teams.
I think historically, if you look back, especially before the Premier League, that most of the teams in the English First Division at the time would have been UK based players. And United had obviously players like Best, a lot of Scottish players, Joe Jordan, Gordon McQueen, going all the way back. But you look at most of the big teams at the time, they were all UK based, and it really wasn't until the money of the Premier League arrived that they started attracting the foreign talent.
But if you're not Scott McTominay, how do you even?
Scott McTominay.
So yeah, I mean, he scored four goals in a week. That's more than anybody can say.
Yes. Yep.
But like, do you think there's still a place at the big clubs for like young talent from some of these other neighboring countries. Like, of course, there's going to be always a path for English talent because of league rules, right?
Yep.
Like minimum homegrown players, all that. But like, is it getting harder for someone like, let's say, an Evan Ferguson at Brighton, like to break through at big clubs?
Oh, for sure, absolutely. Because now you've got talent scouts going and buying young players from South America and Europe, and look at what United did with Garnacho. I mean, say Garnacho at 15 from Atletico Madrid, who had signed him from a team in Argentina. So that takes the place of a Scottish player, a Welsh player, an Irish player. So it's just a wider audience now, or wider field to choose from.
I mean, and then when it's this competitive, you can't really complain if you're getting those Argentine players or Brazilian players or whatnot. But like, part of me thinks that there is like sort of a local charm that disappears when you don't have as many Scottish, Irish, etc.
Yeah, and you look at the traditional northern teams in England, the Liverpool teams, the Manchester teams, and then on the East Coast in Newcastle, there was always a lot of Scottish players there. Not so much, I say not so much the London teams, it's probably not the case, but I didn't always feel it was so much with the London teams. But that's disappeared. I mean, I don't know. I mean, fucking Scotland have never been that great anyway. Recently. But you got a lot of younger Scottish players that are coming through, but you look at Robertson at Liverpool and the young boy at Brentford, the fullback. Can't remember his name now.
Don't forget Kieran Tierney at Arsenal. Yeah.
I was skipping him. I said, Scotland played Spain and they had 3 left backs in the team. You try to squeeze 3 left backs into a team of 11. It's tough because they had Robertson, Kearney, and the boy at Brentford. His name will come to me, but I can't remember his name.
Jeff is like a sniper covered in camouflage and mud with an Arsenal gun, just like there's an Arsenal moment.
But to answer your question, Jeff, I hadn't forgotten about Kearney. I just didn't mention them.
I see.
So change in football downside aside, like what are some of the memories that you've had, just like big moments, either matches you've gotten to go to, or maybe I happen to know something about a daughter having a specific player's kit. Yeah. Tell us some Neil shit, because that's more entertaining than what we'll say.
Well, I think, if I think back to coming over here, when I came over in '92, you just didn't have the TV coverage that we do now. So I wasn't able to watch games. I remember watching United win the league, or not win the league, but they beat Sheffield Wednesday, second or third last game of the season in '93 to more or less win the league. And I watched that on a Spanish channel, and I just came on it by mistake. I didn't know the game was going to be on. I used to go to the Cock and Bull in Santa Monica and watch the games there in the early days, which was great. And I missed that. They closed down during COVID. But I was thinking back to when the bar had closed down. I was thinking back to some of the games, and the likes of the Champions League final in 2008 with the John Terry penalty miss. I mean, things like that were. The day was superb. The game was great. It was great being there. But I also think about things like going to the bar in the last game of the season in 2011 when City won the league, when they beat QPR in the last game of the season with 2 goals, and just thinking about that from to be able to watch that live on 2 different TVs, United on one, City on another, from a sporting standpoint, it's just fucking great. And I've taped it. You can say tape anymore?
You TiVo'd it? You DVR'd it?
Yes, I've got those games taped, and NBC did a sort of recall of the 2 games and side by side, and I've got that tape because I just think it was one of the best sporting events that I've ever witnessed. However, I'll tell you, there's a TV. I'd watched United win, and then I came to watch the last 5 minutes of the City game, and I switched TVs, and there was a TV right above where you used to come into the bar, and I'll never watch that TV again. I watched City win the league on the TV, and I would never watch that TV again. So they had TVs all around the bar, but that was the last time I watched that TV.
Jeff, if you're wondering if Scottish guys hold a grudge regarding your earlier comments, Neil cursed out an entire direction of television.
It is funny to think, though. I mean, I lived on the West Coast a little bit, but most of the time that I was there, it was like I was there for a summer, so I didn't really miss much in terms of the games. But I mean, you were showing up to this bar at 4:00 in the morning then.
Yeah. So, I'm cursed because of my work hours. I work East Coast, so I'm up at that time anyway. So, the likes of Saturday's games at 4:30 here, I'm awake by 3:30 or 4:00 anyway. So it's not as if I'm getting up for the game, I'm just up. So all that stuff was easy. But, it used to be great on a Sunday if United had an 8:00 game, we'd finish at 10, and then the bar went from a United bar to a Steelers bar for the NFL, and you would just stay for that. So that was a great Sunday. It was a lost Sunday, but it was a great Sunday.
Did you have you fallen into any sort of American sporting? I don't know. Have you become a fan of any particular teams, clubs, sports?
Just the NFL. I mean, I think that's the sport that I watch over here, and maybe just because I gamble on it. But I enjoy the NFL. And funnily enough, I stumbled on the Steelers long before I went to the bar. I think it was one of the first NFL games that I watched, and my wife had said something along the lines of, "I know him. He used to go to my high school." I said, "Okay, well, I'm a Steelers fan." Not really knowing much about the Steelers at all, but.
From what I know about people from Liverpool, they should really call their team the Steelers, because I've heard that they'll steal anything.
Thieving gypsies.
All right, we can't co-sign that, Neil, but
that gets bleeped out.
no, we'll leave it in.
Okay.
Jeff and I just need to be against it publicly.
Okay, good. You'd be publicly against that.
What about tell Jeff the story about the McTominay kit that you got your daughter? Not to just tell the whole story in my request.
My daughter's, she's 21 this month, so she's had, she's sort of followed or been aware of United for the last 10 years when we've been shit. So she's only seen not so good seasons. And we were back a couple of years ago she was at Glasgow University. We went to the United Liverpool game when Liverpool beat United 5-0 at Old Trafford. And she took off her jacket. And her favourite player has been McTominay. She took off her jacket and she had a McTominay shirt on. And that's when United just played awful. McTominay was terrible. But the guy behind her was screaming in her ear, "There's only two people in this fucking stadium. They've got a McTominay shirt. It's you and him." And he's like, "Why?" He goes, "Are you Scott?" No. He says, "Are you family or something?" And she goes, "No, I'm Scottish." And she doesn't look Scottish, and she's obviously got an American accent, so it took him a while to understand that one. But, when we were playing a few weeks ago for nostalgia, there was a guy in the other field that had a McTominay shirt on. So I've seen two now. Three with Scott, but two.
It's like spotting two albino elephants or something. You're like, wow, I didn't think I'd ever see one.
Yeah. You didn't need to abuse her though. It was a shame.
But then he puts in 2 goals against Spain.
Yeah.
His sit-down Spain.
He's a decent player. I don't know if he's quite got it to make it for a while at United, but he's a decent player.
He's because he's always asked for United to play essentially stand-in Casemiro role, and that's not what he does very well for Scotland.
No, and then you've seen him in the last couple of games with Sabitzer. The two of them seem to me to be exactly the same player, and it just doesn't work together.
Sabitzer, I think, has a little bit more of a pass on him, and that pass can go forwards.
He's got a little bit more of a ponytail.
All right, Neil, did you by any chance have a chance to watch the 1-0 yesterday against Brentford?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
What was your take on it?
Well, they were okay in the first half. They're a little bit loose in the second half, but I tell you, that's a tough team to play against, and I think everybody's.
I bet.
Yeah, they are not. They're not where they are positioned in the league by accident. They actually got a decent team there. I mean, they thumped United at the beginning of the season. So,
and this was a response also to the capitulation against Newcastle, which was so painful to watch.
Well, I think you sit through 7-0 Liverpool, and by the end of that, I was just laughing to myself, and then I was really just disappointed at the Newcastle game because there was just nothing. And you had people saying because Casemiro's not there, or obviously missing Eriksen, but he should still be able to put up a game against Newcastle. I watched the Newcastle game yesterday as well, though. I thought they looked good. And your boys, Jeff, still have to go to Newcastle.
Yes, we do, and we have to go to Anfield.
Yeah,
back to back, I believe.
You got City.
I'll be there for
Liverpool, and then Newcastle, all away from home.
Yeah, I looked today actually at the sort of the history of the last 10 games under Pep Guardiola at Man City, and there's been several seasons where they just don't drop a single point in that time. Mm-hmm. I think there's only one where they didn't drop any points. There's been many where they didn't lose any games.
Yeah,
they may have drawn a few here or there, but they are a team that closes out titles, and we have this like sort of fake 8-point lead over them, but really we've taken a penalty and we're just waiting for them to go take theirs, and they're probably going to score it because they're City.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then now it's down to 5, and then we have to play them away. So now it's down to 2, and then take your pick for the last 8 games of the season whether you think a 2-point lead is enough.
I was saying to one of my pals the other day, if Arsenal win 2 of the 3 games, the Liverpool, Newcastle, and City, any 2 of those 3 games, you stand a really good chance of winning the league.
Yeah.
However, I'd like to bring up Thomas Partey, posting during the week, laughing at United getting beat up at Newcastle when you guys still have to go up to Newcastle.
Yeah, and we have not beaten them this year either.
No.
We have drawn at home to them.
Yep.
I was at the match where you guys drew at home. I was at Old
the
Trafford
0-0 game.
for the 0-0.
Yeah.
We both were.
Yeah, we were. I was not alone. But it was they're just a team that does that, where it's like in a weird way a 0-0 is almost a result for them, because it's like you can have a 0-0 game with them where they can somehow beat you, but it's like it's almost hard to imagine just like playing football against them and winning. It's like it doesn't happen. They just slow everything down to a crawl, and especially up there, I'm sure it'll be that.
Well, I have been surprised by Arsenal this year. I after the World Cup, I thought you guys would fall away, and you obviously haven't. So we'll see where it goes.
That's the nicest thing Neil's ever said to anybody, Jeff.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
He's been preparing that one because
I've peaked. On this podcast, I've now peaked, and everything's going to be downhill from here.
Now he's ready to get the other remarks he's been preparing.
Exactly.
I mean, but that Newcastle team, like, it felt like we only beat them in the League Cup final because they were missing so many players, and we were really up for it.
Yeah,
it's a good side.
I think they've surprised me more than Arsenal, because they were not a good team last year and put it together. So it'll be interesting. I'd like to think that United should have done enough or will do enough to finish in the top 4. Newcastle and Tottenham have got to play each other, so somebody's got to drop points there. They've both got a tough run in. United have got an easier run in.
3 more games than everybody else too.
Yeah,
and they're shit.
Yeah, Tottenham are shit. Thank you. It's an Arsenal. There you go. But we'll see. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't want City to win the league, but the year that Leicester won the league, and everybody was saying, "Oh, it's fantastic! What a great story." I'm like, "Fuck no! I don't want anybody to win. If it's not United, I don't want anybody else to win the league." And I had, Leicester winning the league did nothing for me, so Arsenal winning the league won't do anything for me. It just annoy me even more. It's
like one of those disgusting hypotheticals where it's like, all right, you've got to move forward or back up, and your dad's dick is behind you and your mom's vagina is in front of you. Like, what do you do? And you're like, I don't participate in the joke is what I do.
Well, I mean, I've got a story about that, but but it's not for a podcast.
But it's City winning 3 times and having a chance at a possible treble that's still on the table for them, or it's Arsenal winning and Jeff rubbing it in our faces for the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's tough, and look, for as much as I like some of the players in the Arsenal team, I don't like Arteta. And
really?
Yeah. He played for Rangers. I don't like anybody who played for Rangers.
Fair enough.
I have my reasons. It's just not. Oh, everybody that I hate, I have a reason for it.
Everybody? There are some players in our Sunday league that
there's some blanket players that just come under that umbrella, but yeah.
I feel like people have actually forgotten it, but until Arteta has had this like weird Midas touch lately, he was just a player where even a lot of Arsenal fans like just hated him.
Yeah.
Like just something about him.
Yeah.
Like he was a club captain at Arsenal, and like there is something about him where he's like I mean, personally, like I would name my next kid after him if I had the chance, but
if you win the league.
Yeah. But you know, I sort of get why he's not like he's a bit of a robot, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like a handsome robot. That's annoying.
Well, he's handsome, but he's got strange hair. But I just think this year he's just he doesn't know if he wants to be Pep or Klopp, and he's kind of got this sort of mixture of them both. I think tactically he's Pep, and then he wants to do this raging on the sidelines. I think that's an act. It's like Klopp's act.
Yeah, but I don't even see like. Am I crazy? Is he doing more on the sidelines than everyone else? Like he seems to be like every coach they're like, hey, whatever. I don't like that. Like he doesn't, I don't see what he's doing that every other coach in the league isn't doing.
I just think he's angry for the wrong reasons. Just be happy.
Scottish advice.
There you go.
If I may paint with a broad brush for an entire other region of the world, I'm told that where he's from in Spain, the stereotype is you're passionately pragmatic. And so it's someone who will like get tears in their eyes as they're like spilling wine on themselves, but they're telling you about how you have to like save up using a tax-free account for the down payment on your kid's home. And they're saying, and you will do this for your family. And he kind of strikes me as that guy where it's like deep down, like he's such a fucking nerd. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to be like the only people that are successful in the game now. They're like Ronaldo. They don't drink. They eat boiled chicken breast and broccoli every day. It's like there's not a lot of George Best left in this game. You know, even if it's Rooney, it's like Rooney was coaching DC United for like 3 years before Ronaldo. You know, Ronaldo's still playing in 120-degree heat. Like,
it's like CEOs, all psychopaths, right? Like you're only getting to that point if you're a psychopath.
And I don't know what it is about Arteta. I don't. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe I just see him raging on the sidelines. He doesn't stand in his technical area. I know fucking not a lot of people do, but at least he's not all cuddly like Klopp is. Klopp cuddles his guys before they go on the field, cuddles them as they come. Get the fuck out of here, please.
He clops the feel, you could say.
Yeah.
Jeff, did you happen to catch any of your own match, the 4-1 against the remains of the United States national team known as Leeds United?
Yeah. I caught the whole thing on BBC 5 radio because I live in the worst country in the world to watch English football in, England.
Yes.
Do you do the same thing in Scotland where you have the 3 p.m. kickoffs all blocked everywhere?
Yeah. So traditionally, before all this TV happened, games were on a Saturday at 3 and a Wednesday at 7:30. So if you had a midweek game, it kicked off on a Wednesday at 7:30. And those were the times. And then when the whole TV thing started to happen, they started showing live games, they said, that's fine, but you can't have a live game at 3 o'clock because all your lower league teams are playing at 3 and you don't want to take an audience away from them. So no live games at 3. So you get the early morning kickoff, the tea time kickoff. Sundays are normally okay because that's all for TV. But
I didn't know it was to support the lower league teams. I thought it was that if everyone can watch the game on TV, no one's coming to the stadium, which Jeff and I have laughed about as ridiculous.
Yeah. So and that was the reason originally, because all your lower league games kick off at 3 o'clock. They still with this traditional 3 o'clock game on a Saturday.
More altruistic than I would have assumed.
Oh yeah, that's us.
That's the defense of it.
Europeans.
Now. That's the defense of it now. But I really think, I don't know. I really think they're just incompetent. That's all. You know what I mean? Like they have already decided we're going to be the Death Star. We are going to be a giant money-making machine that slowly sucks the joy out of this, or at least trades the joy for money as quickly as we can. But I'm like, in this one case, can't you just trade it for money quicker so we can at least watch some of these games? You know what I mean? Like,
And I get that, but I think the way that they've always positioned it is you are a Bury fan. So Bury is 5 miles, 10 miles outside of Manchester. And you're playing Rochdale on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And United are playing Liverpool. And United Liverpool game's on live. And you're in the bar in Bury and it's raining outside. And you're like, fuck, I'm not going to go to the game. I'll just watch United Liverpool. Yeah. And it would take away from the audience at live games.
I just can't imagine Major League Baseball doing that because the Toledo Mud Hens have a game and we want to make sure that a few hundred people go to that. Like, it feels like the lower leagues in American sports are all feeder teams. Like, there is no lower league independent anything.
Right. But I still wonder that of like...
Don't monkey with tradition.
But I mean, they've monkeyed with it enough in that they were willing to have a literal sort of 80s corporate movie starring Michael Douglas, where they broke off and became the Premier League, and they cut all the TV money out from all these people. Yeah. So it's like they're willing to cut them off at the knees to a certain extent. Will they at least cut them off at the knees in the ways that benefit the people who want to sit inside and drink another pint at a pub and watch the game?
No, and I get that. I do. I see both sides of it, and and if there was maybe a greater share of TV money that went to the lower league teams to support that a little bit. But the other side of that is, if you are a Preston or a Rochdale or a Bury or some of the smaller teams around London, and instead of getting 5,000 people through the gate, you're getting 2,000. But it's still being made up with TV money somehow. You'd still rather play in front of 5,000 than 2,000.
Yeah. Well, and then you wonder, too, how quickly it's a slippery slope where it's like, last week there was only 2,000 people in the stands. I'm not going in there if I can't sing and I can't whatever.
Sing. And then it will impact bars around the stadium. And
Why don't all these clubs just get a Ryan Reynolds? It feels like it's such an easy solution.
I'm next. You guys should be next. The two of you, famous US podcasters. By some shit team in
MK Dons or Wimbledon, whatever the fuck they're called. We're the new Wimbledudes.
You don't want those guys. Get some shit team like Forest Green or something like that.
Salford. Jeff and I are gonna buy Salford City FC.
I'd like to stay away from the Manchester area.
From Neville and all them guys though.
Jeff, real quick. Arsenal scored 4 goals. I saw Jesus scored 2. What's happening? What's going on?
Jesus is back, and he was one of the big reasons that I thought. I mean, that was such a classic Arsenal move to send a player to the World Cup, have him not play at the World Cup, but get injured at the World Cup, and have that ruin the season. And so I figured that was it, and it was like, all right, that's cool. We got to lead the league until November, and then maybe we'll be in the Champions League next year. Like I thought that would be the season, and then we just kind of keep hanging on, and we've more or less been in first place the whole season. So,
and at this time of year, Easter. Jesus has risen again.
He rose again. He was out for 3 months.
He surprised me this year. He surprised me how good he's been. And Zinchenko, both of them coming from City.
It says a lot about City, though, that they've just got gold bars in the cabinets that are just sitting there. There are players that don't get enough game time for City that would be crushing it for another team.
I think that's Pep's way. I mean, I think if anybody went to Pep and said, I want to leave, Pep's like, fuck it, then you're out. I don't want anybody playing with me that doesn't want to be here. And I think he's shown that. But, I think he blessed both Zinchenko and Jesus for leaving. So,
although I do wonder, if I think on some level we are just such small, annoying gnats to City. You know what I mean? They're thinking about the Champions League. They're thinking about another league title. But on some level, if I were a City fan, I'd be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't sell a bunch of really useful players to the other, you know what I mean?
There used to be sort of one-way traffic going the other way.
Right.
Arsenal selling players to City, and then you picked up a couple coming this way, which is good. I think if I was a City fan, I think if Arsenal go to Liverpool this weekend and beat Liverpool, I would begin to worry as a City fan. Because to your earlier point, Jeff, if you look at the last 10 games of the season with City, they normally, if they need to put a run together, they
do.
They do. I don't know if they will this year. It doesn't seem like the same City team. They've got little weaknesses.
Yeah.
But
I hope so.
I really think you just need to go up there and beat them. A draw is no good to you, I don't think, in that game.
It's interesting because I kind of think if we manage to get 4 points between Anfield and Newcastle, that's actually kind of a pretty good result.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But then you think about it, it's not really good enough for us, because if we go and lose at the Etihad, which all the smart money would say that we are going to, now it's dead even and they have the goal difference and we have a handful of games left in the season, and we're probably not winning the league anymore. And I think that shows you how difficult, like the fake 8-point lead that we have is actually so precarious, because even if we get 2 very good away from home results, we're still in trouble, I think.
But if you get the 4 points there, if you get 4 points between Anfield and Newcastle, then you can go to City and get a draw there and still feel good about things. So it's not a case of having to go to City and beat them at City. You can go there and get a draw, which I think is doable.
We'll see.
Look at me. I'm
Neil, you're like a little bit of an Arsenal fan, it sounds like, Neil.
I know. Oh, maybe I just want to make a career of this podcast thing. I keep getting asked back.
Neil, you could do your own podcast, start tomorrow, and in 3 days you'd be taking a shit on our podcast.
And then I'll come on yours and say, very nice.
Yeah, there you go.
That's Scott McTominay, I'll tell you what.
Neil's like, I'm your host, Neil. This is Defeat the Soccers. My whole goal is to destroy this other podcast.
It's a great bit.
For you.
Neil, I brought this up with Jeff a number of times, and he hates when I bring this up. I have no doubts about where I would like Mason Greenwood to be, and that is not on the pitch for my club.
Yep.
Thomas Partey just was lucky enough to not have Instagram evidence leak about what he may or may not have done, and look at how different the season would be. Like we just talked about, look how different your season would be if City didn't sell those 2 players to you. Yep. Look how different the season would be if there was no Partey at any point after his.
I think to an extent, Partey is your Casemiro, and he kind of blends everything together. But to your point about Greenwood, and you and I have talked about this, Jeff, Ten Hag would have loved him. Ten Hag would have loved a player like Greenwood as a forward. Play him through the middle, left-footed, right-footed, loves the press. Would have been a fucking great player in Ten Hag's team. But I don't want anybody like that to play for United. It's not good for United. It's not good for the game. It's not good for the women's game in the UK and worldwide. And I just don't want bad people playing for United. And the Partey thing, there's just. I mean, these things happen. These things are out there. You got the guy at say Mendy was the same. I don't know how Partey's still playing. I don't. But
I could also even go back to be a little nice to Jeff and say that like Ronaldo is kind of in a similar camp to Partey, where like he was coming and I had to like on this podcast live figure out how I felt about it, and it was like hoping for the best, but then eventually realizing it's not worth it to damage your ethics so much for so little.
Yeah.
But like going back, like what if Giggs had been caught for all the shit that he's pulled off while he was playing instead of in his 40s?
Shagging your brother's wife.
And beating on, like he physically beat women. Like I would say in some cases, the argument is we don't know everything, but like Giggs might be just as bad of a person as Greenwood.
Well, he's certainly come out that way. And if you look at Giggs, you would just never expect it. And if you hear Giggs being interviewed and all the way through his career, you would never think he was like that.
I would have gotten his like kit until all that came out, and it just really changed it for me. Yep. And that's why I don't want Paul Scholes to do any more talking. I don't want to find out anything about Paul Scholes that I don't already know. Like, just stay a stupid, beautiful ginger. Just like
I know. That's an oxymoron there, but yeah. No, I know, and it's the whole ethics thing with football and everything being out there now. It's not good, and we all. And you mentioned Best earlier, and you look back and you think, Georgie Best, what a great guy, a funny guy. Well, I don't know, he's cheating on his wives, missing games. He went down to. There's a story of him going down to United were at Chelsea, and they went down on the Friday night, and then he hooked up with Miss World on the Friday night, and that was his excuse for missing the Chelsea game on the Saturday.
That was the best excuse. That was the best excuse.
Boss, what should I do? Yeah, it's just so. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, that's so.
Just imagine like a young George Best or even a young Roy Keane on Twitter or like on Instagram. Like
I know Best on that would have been fucking great. He was, but he was. I mean, and. He will be and is idolised and should be idolised at United, but he only had, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons at United. It wasn't as if he was. I mean, I got asked in a bar once in Manchester by a Stoke City fan of all people who my favourite United player was of all time, and I said Rooney, and I said Rooney because he was a great club servant, and I loved the way he played. When he disputed that, as a Stoke fan, he was disputing that. He was talking about Best and Cantona. I'm like, I loved Cantona, but Cantona was there for 2 years or 3 years, and Best wasn't there much longer. And at least you get Rooney, who spends the majority of his career there. And when Greenwood burst through, I just thought, I truly thought that he was going to be the player, end up one of the best players in the world in 5 years' time, and now he's wherever the hell he is now.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the age of star players and prospects getting younger and younger. Like we're hearing about 15-year-olds that are like in a few years they're going to be good, and they're already getting told that they're God's gift to the earth from age 12 onwards. Like that's got to fuck with you the way that being like a child star for TV would
It does. But look at Saka at Arsenal.
Yeah.
He's just a down-to-earth guy. All he wants to do is play football.
Same with Rashford. They started at 18.
Exactly, and Rashford's the same. And then you got to love players like that. And for as much as I love Garnacho, you turn up at training with your fucking hair dyed blonde like he did, I'd be telling him to go home and shave your head and come back when it grows out of your natural colour. It fucking looks ridiculous.
It's the color. It's the color of nachos.
I just want players that want to play football, and that's not to say that I would have been like that. I was nowhere good enough to be like that. But I just want players in my team that just want to play football.
Yeah.
A team of Martinez's. Lissandro Martinez's.
Yes, indeed.
He would be like, if you could take one player from United and have 11 of those that you had to do a league season with, who would it be?
Past or present?
Like on the current team.
Oh, okay.
Well, on this season's form, somebody like Rashford. And I've always, even when he was shit last year, and he was truly awful last year, and he'd lost all confidence, couldn't beat a player. It was like watching our Zog League, and just
that bad.
Just running into players instead of running past players. But Rashford this season's been great, and I love him for that.
Rashford at center back. Rashford,
put them all over the place. But Martinez is great. But a player like you take a player like Eriksen. I think Eriksen could play anywhere. I think he's such a great footballer
for 60 minutes.
Yeah, and then he'd have to come off. He's fucking old.
All right. Before we get into previewing the next two matches, Neil, I spontaneously came up with a question I think Jeff and I would both love to hear your answer for. And you can see it scrolling on the bottom of the screen. How do you feel about Qatar? I'm not going to do it right. Qatar?
I'd just say Qatar. But that's not saying that that's correct. I think I've got mixed feelings. I don't think there's anybody at United that's happy with the Glazers. And I think if we all had our own way, then you would have Ratcliffe and his posse in there at United, somebody that somebody that was British, somebody that was, knows Manchester, knows football.
You're such a United fan right now because when he says, "How do you feel about Qatar?" your first thought is United and not the World Cup that just happened. But
yes,
No, but that is what I meant though. I was leading
Yeah,
to the
that's right.
takeover for sure. I wasn't like Neil.
both-
Quick retrospective on the World Cup 6 months later.
well, the whole human rights, oil money. I don't know. I don't know if it sits well with me. I don't know if I would. And you and I spoke about this on Sunday before our game. I don't know if it stops me watching, but I think I need to know about the deal. But it wouldn't be my first choice.
I'm with you. I think I'll still keep watching. I'm never gonna turn and praise the Sheik for delivering a championship, though. Like I feel like it's as long as the intention of the sports washing is kind of defeated and you keep talking about the shit they're doing wrong anyway. If anything, they're just bringing more media scrutiny onto themselves by doing this. But Jeff will give me shit for it, and he'll have a right to give me shit for it. But like now, there's just like money flowing in when for so long it's been flowing out.
Yeah. The bunch at City did it right until they didn't. But they did a lot for the neighbourhood. Gave back to the community, did a lot for the community. But they still got your financial fair play. Maybe City win the league and then get docked 1.5 points, and you win the league by 0.5 point.
That would be hilarious.
That would be fucking great.
That would be so funny. It's
But
like
they'd end up docking City 0.5 point so they could win the league by 0.5 point. That's what they would do.
Yeah, we still lose on goal difference.
Jeff, I would love for you to win the league on a technicality or an asterisk. I would be all about that. It's like
so it doesn't really count.
Is what we would say on the top of the bus riding around North London.
It's like when Liverpool won the league recently. It was during COVID. There was nobody there. It was fucking great.
I didn't see it.
No, I don't even know if it happened. A good friend of mine over here, an Irish guy, a Liverpool fan, and it's okay to talk about this later, obviously, but he had COVID really bad and was in hospital when Liverpool won the league. So he was getting treated for COVID. He couldn't watch his team win the league that he hadn't seen win the league for 30 years. And that just made me feel better about everything. I'm okay with things like that.
Because he survived, right? There's no victim except his emotions.
He missed it on TV. He couldn't watch it, and he's stuck in hospital with COVID. I'm okay with that.
Neil, are you friends with anybody in your own personal life that's a Liverpool fan or an Arsenal fan or a City fan even?
Yeah, I am. I mean, and look, I can't be around Liverpool fans at a Liverpool game, so I couldn't go to a bar that wasn't all United for a Liverpool game. City, not so bad.
Because you can't find a bar full of City fans anywhere.
No.
The City
But
diaspora.
My brother-in-law in Aberdeen's a Liverpool fan.
Really? And he's alive.
He's an Aberdeen fan and a Liverpool fan. And he's a Liverpool fan because of Dalglish and a lot of the Scottish players that Liverpool had in the 70s. And a couple of Liverpool fans out here. But I could never sit in a room with them and watch a game. And they'd be the same with me, so it's not like it's just a one-way thing. We wouldn't want to be around each other when there was a game on.
I'm so desperate to watch a match live with you that I'm announcing it on this podcast that I'm desperate to watch a match live with you. Anything after 8 a.m., I'll show up for.
My whole thing with Arsenal winning the league is I'm going to go to the bar next season, and there's going to be people coming in with Arsenal shirts on. And saying to me, yeah, I'm from Arsenal originally. I'm like, fuck, no, Arsenal's in London. It's like when Leicester won the league. I go to the Cock and Bull and there's somebody there with a Vardy shirt on. I'm like, come on, man.
I'm from Vardy.
Yes.
I grew up in Vardy. Born
I worked in the same steel mill he did.
Born and bred. I know. So I hope that doesn't happen.
I look forward to the Fairweather fans so much because I've never had them. The entire time I followed Arsenal, it's been weird because for me, like the teams that I grew up following in America were so below the category of shit that they don't even count. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then, so like when I was following Arsenal, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. We've won like a couple FA Cups recently, and everybody's like, this is the worst things have ever been, son.
And I
I'm
don't
like,
know
what?
what's harder, because I look back to something like, and going way back to Aberdeen, and Aberdeen were sort of middle of the table Scottish team, and then Ferguson came along, and you have this, period at Aberdeen in the first team in 30 or 40 years, other than Rangers and Celtic, to win the league. They win the European trophies. They just dominated. They were a fantastic team. And then Ferguson left, and it all went downhill. So I had that, and then, as a United fan, Ferguson left and it all went downhill. And so I've had both of it. I've had the highs and then the shit 10 years since Ferguson's left, which makes it really tough. And I don't know what's worse, never to have it. I mean, I think about my daughter who's 20, and the last 10 years without Ferguson, that's all she's known. So you win a trophy, you win the league, it's great. But there's a great book that was written. I think it was Nick Hornby, but he said something along the lines of, when you're young and you follow a team that's winning trophies, you just think that's it. So when Aberdeen didn't win the league one year, I'm like, fuck it, we'll get next year. And then there's no next year, and there's no next year after that, and it just goes down. It's been the same with United. David Moyes comes along, I'm like, fuck it, next year. And then you just go into this slump, and it's just the worst feeling. But I think back to Aberdeen, and I think back to United after Ferguson, and think, I wish I hadn't thought that now. I wish I hadn't been so flippant about coming second in the league and thinking that's okay, because it's not. It's shit. It's like Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal was the same. I mean, you go back, 15 and 20 years, and that invincible team was just superb, and you think it's going to last forever, but it doesn't.
And then one day you find yourself thinking, I'd give a hand job for third.
It's fucking top four. Or even last year, I'm like, I don't want to be in that Europa
Conference
Champions League shit. If we could just finish 6, it would be great.
Doesn't the Europa Conference League just sound like a bunch of Zoom meetings that you're going to have to be in?
I think it is.
It's when you just put your out of office on. Like, I'm not here.
I've got to do a Europa Conference with Slavia Praha right now.
Yeah,
but Liverpool, I'd love Liverpool to be in that Europa Conference League and have to go to all these teams and play the teams that all begin with a Z or a Z, as you say. That'd be fucking great.
Cluj,
Baku on Thursday night.
Yeah. Not even prime billing on a Thursday, because that's the Europa League. This is the game's going on a Thursday. Yeah, and it's on BT5 or something like that.
You just get a ring on your phone that says Salah's injured.
Yes. And then you have to travel to the other side of the Kazakhstans and then get back for your Sunday game. It's fucking great.
Yeah, if you can avoid the gorillas.
Exactly.
Neil, do you got any estimation on if United can beat Sean Dyche's Dyche Bags coming up?
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, if you can't beat Everton at home, then we're definitely not out of this mini slump. I mean, they should beat them. I don't expect any more United to be scoring 3 or 4 goals. They just don't seem like that type of team right now. And then, I don't know, you go back to McTominay and Sabitzer in the middle together. I'd put Fred in there instead of one of them. And I would start Martial. Martial always scores against Everton, so it'll be tight. I mean, they should beat them 1-0, 2-0.
Eriksen back in full team training right now from his Andy Carrolling.
I know.
ACL, Andy Carroll lunge?
Ex-Liverpool, what do you expect? I would.
He stole my season away.
Yeah, I know. He did, because he was the one player, not the one player, but one player that really made United tick. And I look at Eriksen, and he's kind of an older version of your boy, your captain,
Odegaard.
Yeah, Odegaard. He's turned into a smashing player, isn't he? Because he never
really has.
Because I thought he struggled earlier because it's 15, he was going to be, the best player in the world. Real Madrid snapping up, and he couldn't handle the pressure. But he's looked a really good player this year.
Yeah, it's like it'd be like if Oxlade-Chamberlain won the Golden Boot next year. It's like I think there were a lot of people that had already written him off. But he had that moment where he was supposed to be, and yeah, it's a funny one.
Yeah. So I think United beat Everton. I'd be a little bit concerned with your bunch going up to Liverpool, but you just don't know what Liverpool team you're going to get. At least you guys are consistent. So, if you get a decent showing from Liverpool, they'll be tougher to beat. But I don't know. That Liverpool team that turned up at City last week were fucking awful. They were terrible.
Yeah. I mean, I won't invoke the scoreline, but we'll see. Is it going to be the team that played City or the team that played United that comes out and plays us?
Yeah.
Because those are two very different teams. I just don't know what to make of them. The one thing that I will say, the biggest thing I'm afraid of is not the team Liverpool. It's the stadium. It's Anfield. It's like it's that, and they have put, I believe, it's Paul Tierney on the game, who is one of the absolute worst refs in this league, especially when playing, in a sort of raucous, like he becomes a fan. And the last 5 games that we've had against big teams, he was the ref for. We've lost by a lot. So I think I don't know. I think that is a real danger that we're going to go up, and it's just we're not going to be able to overcome. We're going to be playing on a field that's slanted like that.
I tell you what, if you guys score first, you just suck everything out of that crowd, and I think Liverpool become a lot easier to play against. But the opposite will be true if Liverpool score first, because that place will just erupt.
It's a coin toss then.
Yep.
All right, Jeff.
One of my.
Oh, go ahead.
Let me just go back to that. One of my. If we talk about favorite sporting moments, one of my favorite sporting moments has been Arsenal won the league at Liverpool.
It's up for grabs now.
In '89.
Yeah.
So you think about this Liverpool team all the way through the '80s, which were just best team in the world, truly unbeatable, and they go and they win whatever it was, 6 or 7 titles out of 8 or 9. They were superb, and it came down to the last game of the season.
Yeah,
and Arsenal had to go to Liverpool and beat them 2-0, or by 2 goals.
Right. And
Arsenal scored, I think, early in the second half, maybe, and then it was the 91st minute. And was it Rocastle? I can't remember.
No,
I think Rocastle put the ball through, and
Michael Thomas
scored. At the end of the ground where the Arsenal fans were, in the 91st minute, in the last game of the season, to win the league on goal difference. And you talk about sporting moments that if you put that in a Hollywood movie, nobody believes it. Yeah. And it was against a team that had gone more or less the decade being the best team and out of sight, and it was played on a Friday night, so they could show the game live. And I remember getting the game live in Scotland, and it was crazy. And there's all these little things in sport that give you that. And not an Arsenal fan, it was great to see Liverpool getting beat, obviously, but it was just from a sporting moment. Like I say, you put that in a film, nobody believes it. It was fucking great.
Yeah, there's too many parts of that are like, it's like, oh, really? You're playing against Liverpool in the last game of the season?
At Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like so many elements of it seem kind of like
91st minute, and you show it, and you should look it up after this, Jeff, if you haven't seen it, and they'll just show those last minutes. And you got Kenny Dalglish on the sidelines, he's checking his watch, and George Graham, another Scottish coach, checking his watch, and the ball comes back to the keeper. And that's in the old days where you could pass the ball back to the keeper, and the keeper just punts the ball up, and it's flicked through, and it is unbelievable. It's great.
Amazing moment.
Jeff, do you by any chance have any form of competition, game, challenge, duel to the death?
I do.
Oh!
I do have a duel for you guys.
It's written with a question mark in the running order.
I went on a little website called manutd.com. I guess you guys couldn't get the normal domain name. That was taken, but manutd.com has a bunch of exclusive quizzes for fans and people like me. And this particular quiz is going to be 5 questions. They are multiple guess if you'd like them to be. And so I'll get right into it.
Do we want to let our guests go first, Jeff?
Sure.
So what is it? You're going to ask me a question. I'm going to give you an answer, and then you're going to ask Schuyler a different question.
Schuyler, and then we'll see who gets. There's going to be 5 questions total, so we'll see who gets the most correct in the end.
Wait, 5 each per person?
You're both going to be asked the same questions, and I'm just not going to tell you the answers until the end.
Okay, so we're both answering the same question.
Correct.
All right.
So, Neil, how old was George Best when he made his United debut on September 14th, 1963? The answers that you could choose from are 16, 17, 18, or 19.
18.
Schuyler, same question.
I'm going to say 19 to be different, but I don't fucking know.
Oh, man. manutd.com is not making this easy. I'm going to have to write your answers down because
He was
they're not going to tell me the
shagging
answers
Miss
until
World
the
by
end.
19. He'd moved on.
Yeah. He was not texting her back by that point in his life.
Neil,
He played in Scotland. He went up to Hibs in Edinburgh in Scotland. I seen him up at Aberdeen on a Wednesday night playing for Hibs after his career was over.
Neil, I'm very prepared for you to stomp my face in this game, so don't feel bad about. Don't hold back.
Questions, though.
These are actually the kind of questions that it's like the sports trivia that no one actually knows because they have nothing. But anyway, who was the opposition on that day at Old Trafford? Wolves, Aston Villa, Birmingham City, or West Brom? Not all at once now.
Yeah, this is great podcasting. I'm gonna go for it, Neil. Just say it. Just say what you think.
I'm gonna go for Wolves.
And I'm gonna go for Birmingham City again. Literally pulling this out of my ass.
Yeah,
Wolves
you weren't watching that game 20 years before you were born, Schuyler?
No, I've been busy.
That old Wolves jersey from the 70s it was gold and had a black V-neck. Oh, great.
Oh, man.
They have good colors.
Good team, actually, back in the 70s Wolves as well.
That match was the first of how many total Reds appearances for Best? How many total appearances?
Oh, my God. This is the best, worst quiz ever.
Yeah, this is the worst Best quiz. 470, 480, 490, or 500?
470.
All right. 480.
And I didn't think it was as much as 470.
I
If
hate
you'd
the way
asked
that
me
the
how many
answers-
games.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that
No.
either. Like, the answers are so clumped together that, like, well, okay, I guess it's in the region of 480 then, you dick.
They're like, was that match May 1st, May 2nd, May 3rd, May 4th, or May 5th? And I'm like, I don't know.
In the 1968, well, that's what you get when you go to a crappy website like manutd.com. In the 1968 European Cup final, which of United's goals was scored by the Northern Irishman? First, second, third, or fourth?
I can picture the goal. It's in black and white against Benfica. The left goal at Wembley. Third goal.
And I think it's the second. This quiz might as well be what's on Neil's driver's license. And like,
No, that's just good because this is for an old guy like me. You mention Wolves, and I think about the old Wolves strip and the players, and you mentioned the '68 final, which obviously I didn't see at the time, but I've watched since. And this brings memories flooding back. Schuyler, this is sport, Schuyler.
I don't remember what I had for dinner last night because I might not have even had it. But
I do kind of think like it would have been great if Arsenal won the league this year. It would have been great if they had won the league like 10 years ago when I still had brain cells left. Because I feel like my memories of this can be like, there was like Granite Saka or something. I don't know. Like,
You'll remember the last-minute goal against
against
Bournemouth.
Can't forget that.
And that's what you'll remember of the season. There'll be other little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
You'll remember
when I
beating
tell the
United.
story, it will sound equally unbelievable, except it actually will, because it'll be us and Bournemouth down to the wire. Bournemouth had won the last 7 league titles on the trot. We needed to win.
Yep.
And my grandkids will never look it up because they'll be bored to tears. In which year was the United Trinity statue at Old Trafford featuring Best, Charlton and Law unveiled?
And you got multiple choices,
2006.
right? Okay.
2007, thank you for the reminder. 2008 and 2009 are the chances. So if you were going to guess in the 80s, manutd.com would like you to go fuck yourself.
Well, I'm going to go with 2008, and I'm only saying that because they won the Champions League in 2008. I don't really have an idea, but I'll go with 2008.
And that's also my guess, and I wrote it down before you said it. I'm not trying to copy you. If anything, I've pushed myself into oncoming traffic to avoid taking your answers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. The immediate response is hard luck today. You'll do better tomorrow. You scored 2 out of 5. So that's what I gave. I was bubbling in all of Neil's answers. Let me see if I can sneeze again.
You're going to sneeze.
Let me see if Neil did better than Schuyler still. So the correct answer for how old George Best was when he made his debut was 17.
Oh.
So Neil was closer than Schuyler. Schuyler said 19.
So I win.
Give him that. Question 2, who was our opposition on that day? It was West Brom. Neither of you guessed West Brom.
Shit team.
That match was the first of how many total Reds appearances for Best? 470. You got that right, Neil. You chose the lowest.
Right?
I would have guessed a lot lower too, especially when you were slagging him off earlier, saying he only played for you guys for like 3 seasons or whatever.
Sounds like it was like 6 or 7 seasons.
Well, 6 or 7, but 3 good ones.
Yeah. It's more than he gave the Northern Irish team. In the 1968 European Cup final, which of United's goal scorers were the Northern Ireland, it was the second.
Get in, baby, get in.
Schuyler has 1 on you now, but
just woke up dead relatives with that scream. I was into that.
Please.
I think you will need to win by 2 on this last question, Schuyler, like Arsenal in 1989. And
our last question is that we gave the same answer, though. So,
yes. So unfortunately for you, Schuyler, Neil is crowned champion.
And was it 2008?
It was 2008. You're correct.
Damn it.
Well, yeah, I guess, Neil, I guess we're the same. I guess we're equally as knowledgeable about United, equally as skilled.
Well, I don't think we're the same.
I think we've got one more feature here before we hug and kiss and say goodbye. Neil, not to make you improv here. Nostalgia FC update for any of our audience who is listening who happens to play soccer with us on Sundays. Wanted to hear from Neil, the spiritual captain, the cantina of our club. How's the season? How we been doing? Like, give us your, like, if there's anybody who's been playing out of their skin right now. Do you want to highlight anybody?
We played our first game of the new season last week, a 2-2 draw against one of the top teams from the season before, which I thought was good. I thought it was a game that we should have won. But I think when we have everybody there, we are the best team in the league. And I think, like any Sunday league, you're going to be missing players from time to time. So, no, I look, when you get to my age and you still have the ability to play and stroll around, it's great. There will be a time, and I've noticed it in the last couple of seasons, that things really have slowed down, and there will be a time where I'll just have to watch from the sidelines. But playing football on a Sunday is fucking great. Just to go out there and kick around for 40 minutes or 50 minutes or however long the games are, great.
Well, I think you've still got it, so shut up with all this retirement talk. I don't want to hear that.
Well, I got 3 yellow/red cards last season, and I don't think any of them were particularly malicious. I just think I was just slow. And my mind knows what I want to do, and I just don't always.
Listen, we've seen what's happened to Casemiro this year. I think you're being targeted because of your ethnicity. That's really what it comes down to.
I think that one guy did make fun of my accent, so I did go after him deliberately. Other than that, everything else was just accidental.
You want to give a shout out?
Some of my race baiting about the Scots on this.
Yeah.
Neil, do you want to give any shout-outs, any players? We recently just got our coach, Emily, back from a long injury. A lot of people working their way back.
Even now, I mean, I coached high school football in LA for 15 or 20 years. And I hated when kids had to miss out with injury. And even now, at our age, when you have people that want to play and they can't play because they're injured, I hate it. Emily's back, and I thought Emily was fucking fantastic on Sunday. She starts by saying, I'm going to have to take it easy today. And then when the whistle blew, she was just like a maniac all over the field, which was great. So it was great to have her back. Christian scored from the halfway line, which was great.
Yeah, Jeff, one of our strikers who's been injured for a while, but he has a really good shot, just took the ball from kickoff and hit a straight line with a shot into the upper corner. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just, and I was right behind it when it hit it. And when the ball doesn't move in there and it's not rotating, it was sweet. And he kind of shrugged his shoulders as if he does that every week. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
His name is Christian, and I was like, Christian just sent that ball to hell. Like it was like a nice thematic compliment.
And then you've got Renee, who is this sort of, I don't know. I mean, you watch him play, he's Brazilian. He's got all the touch. The ball never further than 6 or 8 inches away from him when he's moving. It's great to watch him playing. But like any Brazilian, and Anthony being one of them, he beats a player once, he'll come back and beat the player again just for the hell of it. And it's great. Yeah. And it's fucking great to watch. And it's great to watch players like that. And we've got I think we've just got a real mix of players in the team. But everybody kind of knows their role. You know what I mean? I know that if I'm playing at the back, I cannot make a run up the field and expect to get back in time. I make a run up the field, I got to get a taxi back. I just know my role. And, Christian's the same playing up top, and Renee's the same with the ball at his feet. And, everybody's just kind of fitted into this little system that we play now. And Jack was back, and it's great to have Jack. Who's Schuyler?
It's me. I think I gotta pick my moments. And make sure that when I take that moment, it's like I gotta choose the right joke, and I gotta make sure that like everyone on the team is laughing, or I've just talked for no reason, and that's like an embarrassment.
Like the yellow water bottle,
No, it's good. It's great. We've got a really good bunch of people. We've got a team meeting next Saturday, 3:00 at the Nostalgia Bar. It's an all-day drinking session. I think you missed the last one, Schuyler, on it.
And I'll be in New York City for the next one as well. Unfortunately.
Please. No. So it's good. I enjoy it. All good.
Stuff.
Well, this has been another episode of Meet the Soccers. Jeff and I would love to extend a very gracious thank you to you, Neil. You're literally a living legend.
Oh wait, I'm just going through my answers on these questions. I did have 17, and I did have West Brom, so I think I did. I should be okay with that quiz there. No, it was a pleasure. I've never been on a podcast before, so I'll add that to my resume.
You were born to be on podcasts. You need to be on more.
I told you if you get me on, I'll just kind of go sidetracking and start talking about things that I probably shouldn't talk about. But
Jeff, we should have one of our other Arsenal fan guests and Neil on, and you and I can just put on mute and just like eat popcorn and watch the two of them duke it out.
That'd be amazing. Substitute teachers. I like it.
Yep. So I wish you all the best this weekend, Jeff. I do, because it's Liverpool.
Because we're playing Liverpool.
Yeah, and it'll make the season a little bit more exciting and enjoyable. And I would hate Liverpool to derail you. I just think your games at Newcastle and City will be decisive. But I don't think City go 10 games. I don't think City win the next 10 games. I think City will drop points. It just depends how many you guys do. And, I mean, look, Tottenham finish out the top 4. You win the league or finish second in the league. It's got to be a good season for you.
I keep trying to remind myself that the goal at the beginning of the year was top 4.
Yeah.
Feels hard to remember that these days.
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed, just a little bit, when you got beat by Sporting in the Europa League, because I thought that would have been a great game in a semi or a final against United. I thought that would have been great going back.
Well, now we're gonna get Mourinho.
I know, and don't we have the possibility of Juventus in the semi? Yeah,
I think so.
Fucking Pogba and
He won't play. Don't worry about it.
Di Maria back at United. I mean, that's one. I mean, there's not many ex-players that United fans hate, but he's certainly, of the current crop, he is certainly top of the list.
The snack.
Yeah.
All right, Neil, we've got to head out.
I derailed your good.
I was trying to say you've been such a great guest, and then you fucked it up.
Yeah. No.
It's been such a pleasure having you, and if you'll come back, you'll be back.
Of course, I loved it.
Right.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Peace.
Meet the Suckers. Meet the Suckers.